Sarah Chen floated in the command center of Haven's Rest, staring at the holographic display that showed Earth as it was 50 years ago. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents, beautiful. Alive. Gone. Now Earth was a ball of melted glass and radioactive dust. The Kethvar had made sure nothing would ever grow there again. They had done the same to every human colony they could find. Mars, Europa Station, New Shanghai. All of them burned until there was nothing left but memories and ash. Admiral called Lieutenant Torres from his station. The morning reports are ready. Sarah turned away from the Earth display. The command center of Haven's Rest was carved deep inside an asteroid in a forgotten corner of space. No one knew they were here. That was the point. For 50 years, humanity had hidden while they prepared, while they planned, while they built weapons that would make the Kethvar wish they had finished the job. Population count? Sarah asked. 11,800,047, Torres replied. Down by 12 from last month. Every death hurt. There were so few humans left. Each life was precious. But Sarah knew that soon, the Kethvar would understand what it meant to lose everything they loved. She walked through the corridors of Haven's Rest. The walls were metal and stone, cold and practical. Children ran past her, laughing as they played. They had been born here in this hidden place. They had never seen a real sun or breathed air that wasn't recycled. But they were alive, and that was what mattered. In the engineering sections, the best minds humanity had left worked on projects that would have seemed impossible before the genocide. Dr. Kim was perfecting quantum stealth drives that could make ships invisible to any scanner. Professor Zhang was building weapons that could tear holes in space itself. Commander Rodriguez was training pilots to use technology that bent the rules of physics. "Ma'am," said a young engineer as Sarah passed, "the new prototype is ready for testing." Sarah nodded. She had seen the plans. A ship that could appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Silent. Deadly. Perfect for what they needed to do. In the memorial hall, the walls were covered with names, billions of them. Every human who had died in the genocide. Men, women, children, babies. All murdered by the Kethvar because they thought humans were too dangerous to live alongside other species. They had been right about one thing. Humans were dangerous, but they had made one terrible mistake. They hadn't killed them all. Sarah stopped at one section of the wall. Her family's names were there. Her parents, her brother, her daughter who had been only 6 years old. She touched the wall where her daughter's name was carved. "I'm sorry it took so long," she whispered. "But we're almost ready." Captain Webb found her there an hour later. He was one of her best officers, a man who had lost everything just like everyone else. He had spent 50 years learning how to kill Kethvar in the most efficient ways possible. "The council meeting is about to start," he said softly. The War Council met in a room deep in the heart of Haven's Rest. 12 people who led what remained of humanity. They had different backgrounds, different ideas about many things. But they all agreed on one thing. The Kethvar had to pay. "Intelligence reports confirm that Kethvar military strength is at an all-time high," said General Park. "They control 47 systems now. Their fleets patrol the major trade routes. They think they're safe." "Good," said Admiral Chen. "Let them feel safe. It will make this more satisfying." Dr. Vasquez, the chief scientist, activated a holographic display. It showed detailed biological data about the Kethvar species, every weakness, every vulnerability. 50 years of study had taught them exactly how to hurt their enemies. "The bioweapons are ready," she said. "We can target specific genetic markers. Only Kethvar will die. Other species will be completely unaffected." "How long?" asked Sarah. "Once we deploy them, the entire Kethvar population will be gone within 6 months. But Admiral, once we do this, there's no going back. We'll be committing genocide just like they did to us." Sarah looked around the room. She saw the faces of people who had lost everything. Parents who had watched their children burn, children who had seen their parents murdered, brothers and sisters who were now alone in the universe. They started this war when they decided we didn't deserve to exist, Sarah said. We're going to finish it the same way. The only difference is we're going to be more thorough than they were. The room was quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. They were about to become the very thing they hated. But the alternative was to let the Kethvar live while billions of humans remained dead. There's something else, said Captain Webb. Our spy networks have been monitoring Galactic Council communications. They're planning to expand Kethvar territory, give them more systems, more resources. The galaxy is rewarding them for what they did to us. Sarah felt something cold settle in her chest. Not only had the galaxy allowed the genocide to happen, they were helping the murderers get stronger. Then we'll remind the galaxy why they should have stopped this 50 years ago, she said. That night, Sarah stood in her private quarters looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Kethvar families were sleeping peacefully. Children were playing. Parents were planning for the future. They had no idea that death was coming for them. She thought about her own daughter. What would she think of what her mother had become? Would she understand that some things were worth becoming a monster for? A message came through on her personal communicator. It was from Torres in the command center. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from one of our deep space scouts. They've found something you need to see. Sarah made her way back to the command center. On the main screen was a recording from the scout ship. It showed a Kethvar research facility on a remote moon. But this wasn't a normal facility. The architecture was wrong, too organic, too familiar. What am I looking at? Sarah asked. It appears to be a facility for biological research, Torres said. But Admiral, look at these readings. The scanner data appeared on screen. Sarah studied it for a moment, then felt her blood turn to ice. They're using human genetic material, she said. Yes, ma'am. But not just studying it. They're trying to recreate it. To make something new. Sarah understood. The genocide hadn't been about fear or hatred. It had been about harvesting. The Kethvar had killed billions of humans not to eliminate them, but to steal their genetic code. They wanted to create a slave species with human intelligence but without human independence. They had murdered her entire species for parts. Change of plans, Sarah said, her voice deadly calm. We're not just going to kill them. We're going to make them suffer first. Send orders to all fleet commanders. Operation Ghost Ship begins immediately. Ma'am, are you sure? We're not fully prepared for... We've been preparing for 50 years, Sarah cut him off. It's time for the galaxy to remember that humanity is still here, and we're very, very angry. Outside Haven's Rest, the first ships began to move. Silent shadows in the darkness, heading toward Kethvar space. The hunt was about to begin. Commander Vexhai was enjoying his morning meal when the alarms started screaming. The Kethvar military base on Korvek Prime was supposed to be one of the most secure installations in their territory. Powerful shields, automated defense systems, and a full patrol fleet in orbit. Nothing should have been able to get close without being detected hours in advance. Report, Vexhai barked as he rushed onto the command bridge. Sir, we're detecting massive explosions throughout the base, but we can't find the source. Our sensors show nothing. Vexhai looked at the tactical display. 3 ammunition depots had already been destroyed. The main reactor was showing critical damage warnings. Ships in the orbital dock were exploding one by one, yet their scanners showed empty space. Impossible. Nothing can hide from our sensors. Sir, incoming transmission. Source unknown. Put it through. The main screen flickered, then showed the bridge of a ship unlike anything Vexhai had ever seen. The walls were dark metal, lit by blue lights. At the center stood a human woman in a black uniform. Her eyes were cold as winter stars. My name is Captain Elena Reyes, she said. 50 years ago, you murdered my family on New Beijing. Today, I'm returning the favor. The transmission cut off. A second later, the command center exploded around Vexhai. 3 systems away, Captain Marcus Webb watched from the bridge of his ship as another Kethvar installation died in silence. The Ghost Ship program was working perfectly. Human vessels could appear anywhere without warning, strike with devastating force, then vanish before the enemy could respond. Excellent work, he told his crew. Set course for the next target. His ship, the Vengeance, was a masterpiece of human engineering. The quantum stealth drive made it completely invisible to any known sensor technology. The reality fracture weapons could destroy targets by making them simply stop existing. Most importantly, the ship's AI could learn and adapt in real time, becoming more deadly with each battle. "Sir," called Lieutenant Park from the sensor station, "I'm picking up Kethvar patrol ships heading our way. Looks like they're trying to surround us." Webb smiled. "Let them come. Ghost protocol activated. All hands, prepare for silent running." The Vengeance disappeared from all sensors, becoming one with the darkness of space. The Kethvar ships passed right through where it had been, their scanners finding nothing but empty void. "Fire when ready," Webb ordered. The first Kethvar ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment there was nothing but scattered atoms. The second ship managed to send a distress signal before it too was erased from reality. The third ship tried to run, but the Vengeance could move faster than anything the Kethvar had built. Within minutes, the entire patrol was gone. No wreckage, no survivors, just empty space where 12 ships had been. On Haven's Rest, Admiral Chen monitored the reports coming in from across Kethvar territory. Ghost ships were striking everywhere at once. Military bases, research facilities, supply depots, communication relays. Each strike was surgical, precise, and completely devastating. "Ma'am," said Torres, "we're intercepting Kethvar military communications. They're in complete panic. They're calling these attacks acts of terrorism." "Terrorism?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "They kill 11 billion humans and call it military strategy. We kill a few thousand of them and suddenly we're terrorists." Interesting. Perspective. The holographic display showed the progress of Operation Ghost Ship. Red dots appeared across Kethvar space as each target was eliminated. The enemy was learning that nowhere was safe. No defense was strong enough, no hiding place was secret enough. "Admiral," called Dr. Vasquez from her station, "I'm getting reports from our infiltration teams, the biological research facilities. We found. There are more of them. Dozens more." Sarah felt her anger grow cold and sharp. "What have you found?" "They're not just trying to recreate human genetics. They're trying to improve them. Make humans that are stronger, faster, smarter, but completely loyal to Kethvar commands. They're building a slave army." The command center went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The genocide hadn't been about eliminating a threat. It had been about stealing humanity's greatest strength and turning it into a weapon for their enemies. "How close are they to success?" Sarah asked. "Based on the data we've recovered, they have working prototypes. Human Kethvar hybrids with enhanced physical capabilities but no free will. They're planning to mass-produce them within the year." Sarah stood up slowly. When she spoke, her voice was deadly quiet. "Send new orders to all Ghost Ship commanders. Priority targets are now all biological research facilities. Kill everyone. Inside. Destroy everything. Leave nothing that can be salvaged." 3 days later, Captain Webb's team infiltrated the main research station orbiting Vexcon. The facility was massive, protected by the best security the Kethvar could provide. It didn't matter. Human technology was 50 years ahead of anything their enemies could imagine. Webb and his commandos moved through the station like shadows. Their stealth suits made them invisible to cameras and sensors. Their weapons killed silently, leaving no trace. Within an hour, they had secured the Central Research Laboratory. What they found there made Webb sick. Tanks filled with growing tissue, human tissue, but changed, modified, improved according to Kethvar ideas of perfection. In one tank, something that had once been human floated in artificial fluid. It had human intelligence in its eyes, but those eyes were filled with mindless obedience. "My God," whispered Sergeant Kim. "What have they done?" Webb activated his communicator. "Admiral, we've found them. The prototypes. They're people, ma'am. Real people. But they've been turned into something else." Sarah's voice came through the comm, tight with controlled rage. "Can they be saved?" Webb looked at the tanks again. The things inside were breathing, thinking, aware. But they weren't human anymore. They were tools, weapons, slaves. No, ma'am, I don't think they can be. Then put them out of their misery, and make sure this never happens again. Webb and his team spent the next hour destroying everything they could find. Research data, prototype organisms, genetic samples, equipment. When they were finished, they set charges throughout the facility. As they prepared to leave, one of the prototype creatures in the tanks opened its eyes and looked directly at Webb. For a moment, he saw something human there, something that understood what was happening, something that was grateful. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away. Back in Kethvar space, panic was spreading. Military commanders were pulling their fleets back to defend core worlds. Trade routes were being abandoned. Colonies were being evacuated. The ghost ships were everywhere, striking without warning, killing without mercy. Fleet Admiral Thexmar stood in the command center of the Kethvar flagship, studying reports of the attacks. His military analyst had been trying to find patterns, weaknesses, anything that could help them fight back. "What do we know?" he asked his intelligence chief. "The ships appear to use some form of advanced stealth technology. They can remain completely hidden until they attack. Their weapons are unlike anything in our database. And, sir, they're definitely human." "Impossible. We eliminated the humans 50 years ago. Apparently not all of them. Sir, I've been analyzing the attack patterns. This isn't random terrorism. This is a coordinated military campaign. Someone has been planning this for decades." Thexmar felt something cold settle in his stomach. "How many ships are we facing?" "Unknown, sir. They could have dozens or thousands. We simply can't track them when they don't want to be found." That night, Thexmar couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the human woman who had appeared on screens across Kethvar space, Captain Elena Reyes. She had looked at him with eyes that promised death. He had been there 50 years ago when the decision was made to eliminate humanity. He had voted for it. They all had. Humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too creative. They would have upset the balance of galactic power. Now he was learning that they had been right about humans being dangerous. They had just been wrong about being able to kill them all. The communicator on his desk chimed. A message was coming through on all channels simultaneously. Emergency priority. The screen showed the same human woman from before, Captain Reyes, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood dozens of other humans, all wearing the same black uniforms, all with the same cold promise of death in their eyes. "People of the Kethvar Confederation," she said. "You thought you had eliminated humanity 50 years ago. You were wrong. We have been waiting. We have been preparing. We have been growing stronger while you celebrated our deaths." The image changed to show recordings from the recent attacks. Kethvar ships exploding. Military bases burning. Research facilities destroyed. "This is just the beginning," Reyes continued. "You took everything from us. Our homes, our families, our future. Now we're going to take everything from you. Your ships, your stations, your worlds, your lives." The transmission ended with a simple message that appeared in every Kethvar language. "We are humanity. We are vengeance. We are coming." Ambassador SCI-FI of the Valkyrie Union had seen many conflicts during her long career, but nothing like this. The reports coming from Kethvar space were horrifying. Entire fleets vanishing without a trace. Military installations being destroyed by invisible attackers. Panic spreading through one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. "Surely this is just another territorial dispute," she told her aide as they traveled toward the emergency session of the Galactic Council. "Perhaps a neighbor trying to expand their borders." Her aide, a young diplomat named Korovan, shook his head. "Ma'am, the intelligence report suggests something far worse. The attackers appear to be human." SCI-FI laughed. "Impossible. The humans were eliminated decades ago. The Kethvar made sure of that." "That's what we thought. But the evidence is mounting. These ghost ships use technology we've never seen before. and the few survivors describe seeing humans on the bridge transmissions. The council chambers were in chaos when they arrived. Representatives from dozens of species were arguing loudly. Some demanded immediate intervention to stop the attacks. Others insisted this was an internal Kethvar matter. A few suggested that perhaps the Kethvar deserved what was happening to them. Chancellor Mordek called for order. "We are here to address the crisis in Kethvar space. Fleet Admiral Thexmar will present his report." The Kethvar military leader looked haggard. His once proud bearing was gone, replaced by the desperate posture of someone who had seen his world crumble around him. "Honored Council," he began, "we face an enemy unlike any we have encountered. They strike without warning from ships that cannot be detected. Their weapons can destroy our most powerful vessels with a single shot. In 3 weeks, they have crippled our military capacity by 60%. "What do they want?" asked Representative Havtek from the Grian Republic. "They want us dead. All of us. This isn't about territory or resources. They have stated clearly that their goal is the complete extinction of the Kethvar species." Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. Genocide was rare in the galaxy. Most conflicts were about trade routes or mining rights. The complete destruction of an entire species hadn't happened in over 1,000 years. "And you're certain these attackers are human?" Zeftai asked. "Yes. They have identified themselves in multiple transmissions. They claim to be survivors of our military action 50 years ago." Military action. Zeftai noted how he avoided saying genocide. The Kethvar had never officially admitted to deliberately exterminating humanity. The official record stated that human colonies had been destroyed during a preemptive military operation to prevent future conflicts. "If these are indeed human survivors," said Chancellor Mordek, "then we must attempt diplomatic contact. The Council has protocols for resolving such conflicts." That was when the lights went out. Emergency power flickered on a moment later, bathing the chamber in red light. Alarms were screaming throughout the station. Security forces were shouting orders, and on every screen in the chamber, the same image appeared. A human woman in a black uniform stood on what appeared to be a ship's bridge. Behind her, stars wheeled slowly past viewports. She looked directly at the camera with eyes that seemed to see into each person's soul. "Members of the Galactic Council," she said in perfect galactic standard. "My name is Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the Human Remnant Fleet. You are meeting to discuss what you call the Kethvar crisis. Allow me to clarify the situation." The image changed to show a holographic display of the galaxy. Human ships appeared as red dots throughout. Kethvar space, there were hundreds of them. 50 years ago, the Kethvar Confederation committed genocide against humanity. 11 billion people died. Men, women, children, infants, all murdered because you decided we were too dangerous to live. The display changed again, showing recordings of the attacks. Planets burning, cities melting, refugee ships being destroyed as they tried to escape. "You watched this happen," Admiral Chen continued, her gaze seeming to focus on each council member individually. "You knew what was being done. Some of you even voted to allow it. All of you chose to do nothing." Zeftai felt a chill run through her body. She remembered the vote 50 years ago. The Kethvar had presented evidence that humanity was planning to dominate the galaxy. Most council members had agreed that preemptive action was necessary. Now you meet to discuss how to stop us from taking our revenge. You want to negotiate. You want to find a peaceful solution. You want us to be reasonable. The Admiral's expression hardened. "We tried being reasonable 50 years ago. We tried diplomacy. We tried following your laws and your protocols, and you let them murder us anyway." The display showed more recent images now. Kethvar ships exploding, military bases burning, research facilities being destroyed. "We have spent 50 years preparing for this moment, learning, growing stronger, building weapons you cannot imagine. We are no longer the weak species you thought you eliminated." Suddenly the view changed. Instead of the Admiral's ship, they were looking at the Council station itself. But from outside, from space. A massive human ship hung in the void near the station. It was like nothing any of them had ever seen. Sleek, predatory, beautiful in its deadliness. And it was close enough to destroy the entire station with a single shot. To demonstrate our capabilities, Admiral Chen said, "Observe." The ship fired a single beam at the nearby moon of Corlex. The beam lasted only a moment. When it ended, the moon was gone. Not destroyed, not broken apart. Simply gone, as if it had never existed at all. The council chamber was silent except for the sound of terrified breathing. "We did not come here to negotiate," the Admiral continued. "We came here to deliver a message. The Kethvar will be extinct within 6 months. Any species that interferes with our operations will join them. Any species that harbors Kethvar refugees will be considered an enemy of humanity." Representative Havadak found his voice. "Admiral Chen, surely we can reach some accommodation. The actions of the Kethvar 50 years ago were regrettable, but genocide in response will not." "Regrettable?" The Admiral's voice turned ice cold. 11 billion murdered people are regrettable? The extinction of our entire civilization is regrettable? The image changed one final time. It showed a recording from Haven's Rest. The memorial hall with its walls covered in names. Billions of names. All the humans who had died. Every name on these walls was someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend. They had dreams, hopes, plans for the future. All of that was taken from them because you decided they didn't deserve to exist. Admiral Chen appeared on screen again. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. "We are not asking for your permission. We are not seeking your approval. We are informing you of what will happen. The Kethvar committed genocide against humanity. Now humanity will commit genocide against the Kethvar. The only difference is that we will be more thorough." The transmission ended. Normal lighting returned to the chamber, but the mood had changed forever. Chancellor Mordek was the first to speak. "We must evacuate all non-essential personnel from Council space immediately, and send emergency messages to all member species. Humanity has declared war on the galaxy." "Not on the galaxy," SCI-FI said quietly. "On anyone who gets between them and their revenge." Fleet Admiral Thexmar laughed bitterly. "You still don't understand. This isn't about revenge anymore. Look at what they just did. They made a moon disappear. They infiltrated the most secure facility in the galaxy. They've been watching us, learning about us, preparing to fight us for 50 years. He stood up, his shoulders sagging with defeat. "They're not trying to get revenge for what we did to them. They're trying to make sure it never happens to anyone else. They're establishing themselves as the galaxy's apex predator, and they're using us as the example." That night, emergency meetings were held across the galaxy. Species leaders huddled in secure bunkers, trying to decide how to respond to humanity's ultimatum. Some suggested forming a grand alliance to fight the human threat. Others proposed surrendering immediately and hoping for mercy. But deep in her private quarters, Ambassador SCI-FI was reading classified files from 50 years ago, reports about human capabilities, assessments of their technological potential, warnings about what might happen if they were ever pushed to extremes. One report, written by a Kethvar intelligence analyst, stood out. Humans possess several dangerous characteristics: extreme adaptability, innovative problem-solving, and an unusual capacity for both cooperation and violence. Of particular concern is their tendency to become exponentially more dangerous when threatened with extinction. Recommendation: if military action against humanity becomes necessary, ensure complete elimination of the species. Any survivors will pose an existential threat to galactic stability. SCI-FI closed the file and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were hunting Kethvar vessels with perfect efficiency. In a few months, an entire species would be extinct, and the galaxy would learn that there were some mistakes that could never be undone. The humans had tried being civilized. They had tried following the rules. They had tried being reasonable. Now they were going to try being terrifying instead. General Vexkoth had not slept properly in weeks. Once he had been the supreme military commander of the Kethvar Confederation. He had led the fleets that destroyed humanity 50 years ago. He had been proud of that accomplishment, convinced that he had saved the galaxy from a dangerous threat. Now he was hiding in a bunker deep beneath the surface of a dead moon, listening to reports of his people dying across the galaxy. "Sir," said his aide, Captain Morthek, "the latest casualty reports." Vexkoth took the datapad with shaking hands. 70% of the Kethvar military was gone. 18 colonies had been evacuated. The home worlds were under constant attack by invisible enemies who struck without warning. What about the civilian evacuations? That's where it gets worse, sir. Vexkoth looked up from the reports. Worse how? The humans aren't just targeting our military installations anymore. They're hunting down every Kethvar in the galaxy. They have teams on every world where our people sought refuge. They're killing civilians, sir, families, children. The general felt sick. Show me. The main screen activated, displaying recordings from across the galaxy. On Velkari Prime, Kethvar refugees in a camp woke up to find their guards dead and unknown figures moving through the darkness. By morning, every Kethvar in the camp was gone. No bodies were found. No witnesses survived. On Heptarch Station, a group of Kethvar business people were meeting in a secure conference room. Security footage showed them discussing trade agreements. One moment, then the lights went out. When emergency power restored illumination, the room was empty except for strange burn marks on the walls. On a passenger transport heading for the Galactic Rim, 3 Kethvar families were traveling under assumed identities. The ship arrived at its destination on schedule, but when it docked, only the non-Kethvar passengers were still aboard. The crew had no memory of any Kethvar passengers ever being on the ship. How are they doing this? Vexkoth asked. We don't know, sir. They seem to have infiltrated every major population center in the galaxy. They know where every Kethvar is hiding. They can reach anyone, anywhere. Vexkoth studied the reports more carefully. The pattern was becoming clear. The humans weren't just killing Kethvar randomly. They were being surgical about it, precise. They eliminated their targets without harming anyone else, often without anyone even noticing until it was too late. Sir, said another aide, there's something else. We've been monitoring human communications. They're calling this the final hunt. It's not just about killing us. They want us to understand what it feels like to be helpless, to know that death is coming and there's nothing we can do to stop it. That was when Vexkoth realized the terrible truth. The humans weren't just committing genocide. They were doing it slowly, methodically, making sure every Kethvar alive understood exactly what was happening and why. How long? He asked. The current rate, sir. The entire Kethvar population will be extinct within 3 months. Vexkoth walked to the small window that looked out over the lunar surface. Somewhere among those stars, human ships were hunting his people. Ships commanded by survivors of the genocide he had ordered 50 years ago. Sir? Called Captain Morthek. What are your orders? Orders. As if there was anything left to order. As if there was any strategy that could save them from what was coming. Gather every military asset we have left, Vexkoth said finally. We're going to make one final stand. 3 days later, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the last Kethvar fleet assembled in the Korvek system. They had gathered everything they had left. Dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, fighters, nearly 1,000 ships arranged in perfect battle formation. It was impressive. 50 years ago, such a fleet would have been unstoppable. Today, it was about to become a memorial. Admiral, said Captain Webb from his position at the tactical station, all ghost ships are in position. We have them completely surrounded. Sarah nodded. The Kethvar couldn't see the human ships. To their sensors, space appeared empty. They were surrounded by death and didn't even know it. Open a channel to the Kethvar flagship. The main screen showed the bridge of a massive Kethvar dreadnought. At its center stood an elderly Kethvar in a worn military uniform. Sarah recognized him from the files. General Vexkoth, the architect of humanity's destruction. General, Sarah said, her voice perfectly calm. I know who you are. Vexkoth straightened his shoulders, trying to project strength he no longer felt. Admiral Chen, I wondered when we would finally meet. You were there 50 years ago. You gave the orders that murdered my species. Yes, I did. Vexkoth's voice was steady. I believed it was necessary. I was convinced that humanity posed a threat to galactic stability. And now? Vexkoth looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Young Kethvar, who had never known a world without the threat of human vengeance hanging over them. Now I understand that we created the very threat we were trying to prevent. Sarah studied the old general's face. She saw no defiance there, no anger, just tired acceptance of what was about to happen. Your people are extinct, General. This fleet represents the last military force you have. In about 10 minutes it will be gone. After that, our hunter teams will spend the next few weeks eliminating the few thousand Kethvar still hiding throughout the galaxy. I know. Do you have anything to say? Any final words for your species? Vexkoth was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute defeat. I want you to know that I understand why you're doing this. 50 years ago, we made a choice. We decided that your people were too dangerous to exist alongside us. We were wrong, but not in the way I thought we were. He paused, looking directly at Sarah through the screen. We weren't wrong about humans being dangerous. We were wrong in thinking we could eliminate that danger by killing you. All we did was teach you to. Perfect it. Sarah felt something shift inside her. This wasn't what she had expected. She had thought he would rage, or plead, or try to bargain for his people's lives. You're not going to ask for mercy? Would you grant it if I did? No. Then why would I ask? You're going to kill us all because we killed you all. It's symmetry, justice, the universe balancing itself. Vexkoth straightened his uniform one final time. But Admiral, I want you to remember something. When this is over, you'll be the most feared species in the galaxy. Every other civilization will look at you and see what you did to us. They'll know that if they ever cross humanity, you'll hunt them down and destroy them completely. Sarah said nothing. That fear will keep the peace for a while, Vexkoth continued. But eventually someone will decide that you're too dangerous to exist. They'll form alliances. They'll develop new weapons. They'll try to do to you what you're doing to us. The old general smiled sadly. And when that happens, you'll understand exactly how we felt 50 years ago. You'll be faced with the same choice we were. Fight or be destroyed. And if you choose to fight... He let the implication hang in the air. Sarah felt a chill run through her. She had never considered what would happen after the Kethvar were gone. What would humanity do then? How would the galaxy react to having such a powerful, ruthless species among them? The cycle will continue, Vexkoth said. Someone will always be too dangerous to live. Someone will always have to be eliminated for the greater good. We started this cycle 50 years ago. You're going to complete it today. But it won't end with us. The transmission fell silent. On the tactical display, Sarah could see the Kethvar fleet maintaining formation. They weren't trying to run. They weren't launching a desperate attack. They were simply waiting to die. Admiral? Captain Webb asked quietly. Your orders? Sarah looked at the display for a long moment. 1,000 ships. Tens of thousands of lives. The last remnant of the species that had destroyed her world. She thought about her daughter, about her parents, about the 11 billion humans who had died screaming while the galaxy watched and did nothing. All ships, she said, her voice carrying across the human fleet. Open fire. The Kethvar fleet died in silence. One moment they were there, proud and defiant even in defeat. The next moment they were scattered atoms drifting through empty space. General Vexkoth's last words echoed in Sarah's mind as she watched the debris field expand. The cycle will continue. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Today, humanity had its revenge, and the galaxy would never forget the price of threatening human survival. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so quiet. Representatives from 47 species sat in perfect silence, waiting for the human delegation to arrive. It had been 6 months since the last Kethvar died, hunted down on a remote asteroid, mining station by human operatives who had tracked him across half the galaxy. The Kethvar Confederation no longer existed. An entire species had been wiped from the universe as thoroughly as if they had never been born. And now humanity was coming to discuss the future. Ambassador SCI-FI watched the main entrance with growing anxiety. After 6 months of silence, Admiral Chen had finally agreed to meet with the Council. But her message had been clear: this was not a negotiation. This was humanity informing the galaxy of the new rules. The doors opened, and Admiral Sarah Chen entered the chamber. She looked exactly the same as she had in her transmissions. Black uniform, cold eyes, the bearing of someone who had seen the worst the universe could offer and decided to become worse than it. Behind her walked 12 other humans, all wearing the same uniform, all carrying themselves like predators who had just finished a successful hunt. The Admiral walked to the center of the chamber and stopped. She did not bow. She did not offer greetings. She simply stood there, letting the silence stretch until every being in the room understood exactly who was in control. 6 months ago, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The last Kethvar died. The species that committed genocide against humanity has been completely eliminated. Our revenge is complete. She paused, letting that sink in. You asked for this meeting because you want to know what happens next. You want to understand humanity's intentions. You want to know if you're safe. Admiral Chen's gaze moved slowly around the room, making eye contact with each representative. The answer to that question depends entirely on you. Chancellor Mordek cleared his throat nervously. Admiral Chen, the Council wishes to express our regret over the events of 50 years ago. Perhaps now we can work together to establish peaceful relationships between humanity and the galactic community. Sarah smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Peaceful relationships. Like the peaceful relationship you had with humanity before. The genocide? The one where you watched us die and did nothing? The Chancellor shifted uncomfortably. Those were different times. Different circumstances. Yes, they were. In those times, humanity was weak. We followed your laws. We trusted your promises. We believed that civilization and diplomacy could protect us. Sarah walked closer to the Chancellor's seat. We were wrong. The only thing that protects any species in this galaxy is the ability to destroy anyone who threatens them. The Kethvar learned that lesson. Now you're going to learn it too. Representative Havtek from the Grian Republic stood up. Admiral, surely you don't intend to threaten the entire galaxy. We had nothing to do with what happened to your people. Nothing to do with it? Sarah's voice turned ice cold. You voted to allow it. When the Kethvar presented their evidence that humanity was too dangerous, you agreed. When they asked for permission to take preemptive action, you granted it. When they started killing our colonies, you looked the other way. Dyke? Truth of those words hit the chamber like a physical blow. Every representative remembered the votes from 50 years ago, the careful diplomatic language that had authorized genocide. But more importantly, Sarah continued, you would do it again. If another species rose up that seemed too powerful, too dangerous, too different from your comfortable status quo, you would make the same choice. You would eliminate the threat to preserve your vision of galactic stability. She walked back to the center of the chamber. That will never happen again. The main display activated, showing a holographic map of the galaxy. Human ships appeared as red dots throughout known space. There were thousands of them. Humanity now maintains the largest military force in galactic history. Our ships are more advanced than anything you can build. Our weapons can destroy stars. Our intelligence networks have infiltrated every major civilization. We know your weaknesses, your fears, your plans. The display changed, showing detailed intelligence reports on every species represented in the chamber. military capabilities, government structures, economic vulnerabilities. The humans had been watching everyone. "This is the new reality," Sarah said. "Humanity is now the galaxy's dominant military power, and we're going to use that power to ensure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else." Representative Kelsna from the Thranx Empire raised a tentative hand. "What exactly are you proposing, Admiral?" "The Terran Doctrine, a simple set of rules that will govern galactic civilization from now on." The display changed again, showing a document written in dozens of languages. Rule 1. No species may commit genocide against another species for any reason. Period. No exceptions. No justifications. Rule 2. Any species that attempts genocide will be completely eliminated by human military forces. Rule 3. Any species that supports, enables, or harbors those who commit genocide will share their fate. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Several representatives stood up to object, but Admiral Chen raised her hand and the room fell silent immediately. Rule 4. These rules are not subject to negotiation, modification, or repeal. They are permanent galactic law, enforced by human military might. Rule 5. Humanity reserves the right to determine what constitutes genocide and what constitutes appropriate response. Chancellor Mordek found his voice. "Admiral, you're essentially declaring yourself the galactic police force. Who gave you that authority?" Sarah's smile returned. "The same authority the Kethvar had when they decided to eliminate humanity. The same authority this council had when you voted to allow it. The authority that comes from having the power to enforce your will." She gestured to the display showing human military assets. "The difference is that we're not using that power for conquest or personal gain. We're using it to prevent future genocides. Every species in this galaxy is now under human protection, whether they want it or not." Representative Yaxmal from the Centauran Alliance stood up angrily. "This is tyranny. You're imposing your will on the entire galaxy." "Yes," Sarah said simply. "That's exactly what we're doing." The blunt admission shocked the chamber into silence. 50 years ago, you had a choice. You could have stopped the Kethvar from committing genocide. You could have protected humanity. You could have upheld the principles of civilization you claim to represent. Sarah's voice grew harder. You chose to let us die instead. Now you don't get to make that choice anymore. We're making it for you. The display changed one final time, showing images from the memorial hall on Haven's Rest. Billions of names covering the walls. All the humans who had died. Every being in this galaxy is now safer than they were 6 months ago. Not because you've become more civilized. Not because you've learned to be better. But because humanity is watching and we will never again allow genocide to happen on our watch. Admiral Chen turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing. We're establishing permanent human monitoring stations in every major system. Human observers will be assigned to every government, every military force, every organization capable of large-scale violence." "This is an occupation," shouted Representative Havtek. "No," Sarah said calmly. "This is insurance. Insurance against your worst instincts. Insurance against another genocide. Insurance that the galaxy will never again decide that an entire species is too dangerous to live." She walked toward the exit, her delegation following behind her. "The Terran Doctrine goes into effect immediately. Human forces are already deploying to enforce it. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." At the entrance to the chamber, Admiral Chen stopped and turned back one final time. "You wanted to know if you're safe. Here's your answer. You're safe from genocide. You're safe from the kind of systematic murder that destroyed humanity 50 years ago. You're safe from each other." Her eyes hardened. "But you're not safe from us. You will never be safe from us. Because the moment you think you can go back to your old ways, the moment you decide that some species is too different or too dangerous to exist will be there." She paused at the threshold. "We are humanity. We are the consequence of your choices. We are the price of your indifference. And we will be watching you for the rest of time." The doors closed behind her, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Later that day, news of the Terran Doctrine spread across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, billions of beings learned that their universe had changed forever. Some were grateful for the protection, others were terrified of their new guardians. On New Terra, humanity's first new colony world, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the memorial garden, where an eternal flame burned for the 11 billion dead. The names were still there, carved in stone that would last forever. Captain Webb approached her quietly. "Admiral, the deployment is complete. Human forces are in position throughout the galaxy. The Terran doctrine is now in effect." Sarah nodded, still looking at the memorial. "Do you think we've become the very thing we fought against?" Webb asked. Sarah considered the question for a long moment. "The Kethvar destroyed us because they thought we were too dangerous to exist alongside them. Now we control the galaxy because we're too." The stars looked different from the observation deck of the Earth Alliance starship Defiant. Captain Olivia Martinez stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the vast emptiness of space. Even after 15 years of service, the beauty of the cosmos still took her breath away. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command," said Lieutenant Commander Eric Johnson, breaking the silence as he approached. Olivia turned to face her first officer. "Is it about New Horizon?" Eric nodded. "Yes, ma'am, the situation is getting worse. The Zarathi have doubled their patrols." Olivia frowned. The Zarathi Empire had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years before humans even left Earth. They were tall, six-limbed beings with pale blue skin and eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's, and they made sure everyone knew it. "Tell Communications Officer Wright to set up a secure channel in my ready room," Olivia said. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." As Eric left, Olivia took one last look at the stars. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 75 years ago, and they were still finding their place among the stars. The Zarathi had classified humans as a low-threat species due to their physical weakness, compared to other alien races. But Olivia knew the truth. The Zarathi feared humans' ability to adapt and their unpredictable nature. In her ready room, Admiral Joseph Carter's face appeared on the screen. His expression was grim. "Captain Martinez, I'll get straight to the point. New Horizon needs help. The Zarathi governor Zulthar has implemented new containment protocols that are strangling the colony. We need the Defiant to show the flag and gather intelligence on what's really happening out there." "Yes, sir," Olivia replied. "We'll set course immediately." "Be careful, Captain," Admiral Carter warned. "Don't give the Zarathi any excuse to claim human aggression. We can't afford a direct conflict." After the call ended, Olivia summoned her senior officers to the conference room. Eric arrived first, followed by Dr. Alan Phillips, the ship's chief medical officer. Lieutenant Ryan Miller, tactical officer, entered next, deep in conversation with engineer Frank Cooper. Last to arrive was communications officer Samantha Wright, a young but brilliant officer who had a gift for languages. "Ladies and gentlemen," Olivia began, "we're heading to New Horizon. The colony is facing increased pressure from the Zarathi. Our mission is to evaluate the situation and show the colonists they haven't been forgotten." "About time," Ryan muttered. "The reports from New Horizon have been troubling for months." "What exactly are these containment protocols?" asked Alan, the doctor's kind face creased with concern. "Officially, they're safety measures," Eric explained. "Curfews, travel restrictions, limits on communications, all supposedly to protect humans from the dangers of space." Samantha frowned. "But really, they're just excuses to control us." "Exactly," said Olivia. "And from what I hear, Governor Zulthar is particularly strict in his enforcement." "The Defiant is ready for the journey, Captain," Frank assured her. "I've made some modifications to our engines that should get us there a day earlier than expected." "Good work, Frank. Set course for New Horizon, maximum speed." As the meeting ended, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. The tension between humans and the Zarathi had been building for years. How long before it finally broke? On the frontier world of New Horizon, 9-year-old Maria Lopez sat on a hill overlooking her family's farm. The sky above was a strange shade of purple, different from the blue skies of Earth she had seen in videos. Maria had been born here on New Horizon, but she dreamed of seeing Earth someday and then exploring even further into space. In the distance, she could see the tall, angular buildings of the Zarathi outpost. The aliens rarely came to the human settlement, but when they did, everyone grew quiet and nervous. "Maria, time for dinner," her mother called from their home. With a sigh, Maria stood up. As she turned to go, she noticed a Zarathi patrol ship moving toward the human settlement. That was strange. They usually stayed near their outpost. Inside, her parents were setting the table. Daniel and Kate Lopez had come to New Horizons seeking a fresh start. Daniel was a soil scientist, helping the colony grow earth crops in alien soil. Kate worked as a community administrator, keeping peace among the 5,000 human settlers. "I saw a Zarathi ship coming this way," Maria said as she washed her hands for dinner. Her parents exchanged worried glances. "They're probably just doing their regular patrol," Daniel said, but his voice sounded strained. "I heard at the community meeting that Governor Zulthar is planning some kind of announcement tomorrow," Kate added. "Maybe they're preparing for that." The family ate dinner together, trying to keep the conversation light for Maria's sake. But the girl was smart. She knew when her parents were worried. "Will we have to leave New Horizon?" she asked suddenly. "No, sweetheart," Kate assured her. "This is our home. No one is going to make us leave." Later that night, Maria lay in bed listening to her parents talking in hushed voices. "The new restrictions are getting worse," her father was saying. "Jim can't even get parts for the water filtration system without Zarathi approval now." "I know," her mother replied. "And that speech Zulthar gave last week about human containment for galactic stability was chilling. What does that even mean?" "It means they're afraid of us," Daniel said. "Humans haven't been conquered like the other species. We got our tech on our own and we keep improving it. The Zarathi don't know what to do with a species that won't just fall in line." Maria pulled her blanket tighter around herself. Why couldn't everyone just get along? In school, they learned about Earth history and all the wars humans had fought against each other. Now in space, it seemed like the same problems were happening again, just with aliens instead. She closed her eyes and tried to think of happier things. Maybe someday she would serve on a starship like the brave officers in the stories her dad told her. Maybe she would even be a captain, exploring new worlds and making friends with new alien species, better aliens than the Zarathi. Outside, the purple sky darkened to black, and the 3 moons of New Horizon cast a silvery light over the human settlement. In orbit above, the Zarathi ships watched, their sensors scanning the primitive human colony. And aboard one of those ships, Governor Zulthar was preparing a demonstration that would remind these upstart humans of their proper place in the galactic order. The peace of New Horizon was about to be shattered forever. The morning brought a red sunrise to New Horizon. Daniel Lopez watched it from the window of their small home, a feeling of dread growing in his stomach. Something felt wrong today. "Daddy, can I go to Lily's house after school?" Maria asked, her dark hair still messy from sleep. Daniel smiled at his daughter. "We'll see, sweetheart. Let's get through today first." Kate entered the kitchen, already dressed for her work at the community center. "I heard the Zarathi ships were flying low over the eastern farms last night," she said quietly, trying to keep Maria from hearing, but the girl was listening as she ate her breakfast. "Why don't the Zarathi like us?" Maria asked suddenly. Her parents exchanged glances. Daniel sat down beside his daughter. "It's not that they don't like us," he explained. "They're just used to being in charge. For thousands of years, they've told everyone in the galaxy what to do. Then humans showed up, and we like to do things our own way. Like when Mrs. Garcia tells everyone to color inside the lines, but Ben always makes his pictures different?" Maria asked. Daniel smiled. "Something like that." The family's quiet morning was interrupted by a loud announcement echoing across the settlement. Governor Zulthar's voice boomed from speakers that had been placed around the colony. "Attention, human settlement of New Horizon. By order of the Zarathi Empire, a mandatory compliance inspection will take place today. All humans are to remain in their homes until Zarathi officials have completed their assessment. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force." Kate's face paled. They've never done this before. I need to get to the community center, Daniel said. People will be scared. No, Kate grabbed his arm. The announcement said to stay home. Outside they could hear the hum of Zarathi ships growing louder. Maria pressed her face against the window. They're landing in the town square, she said. Stay away from the windows. Daniel pulled her back gently. Let's all just stay calm and follow their instructions. The minutes ticked by slowly. Through the window they could see Zarathi soldiers moving from house to house. They wore sleek armor that seemed to shift colors like oil on water, and they carried long staff-like weapons. When the knock came at their door, it was more like a pound. Daniel opened it to find 3 Zarathi soldiers, their tall, thin forms towering over him. Their 6 limbs moved in perfect coordination as they stepped forward. This dwelling has been selected for detailed inspection, the lead Zarathi said, its voice sounding metallic through its translator. Step aside. May I ask what you're looking for? Daniel tried to keep his voice steady. The Zarathi's glowing eyes narrowed. Compliance is mandatory. Questions are not permitted. The soldiers pushed past Daniel and began searching the house. They opened drawers, scanned walls with strange devices, and knocked items off shelves. Maria clung to her mother, watching with wide eyes as the aliens tore through their home. Please be careful, Kate said as one of them knocked over a small shelf of family photos. The frames crashed to the floor, glass shattering. The Zarathi ignored her. One of them picked up Maria's tablet, the screen showing her school lessons. This device has accessed restricted information, the soldier declared. That's just her schoolwork, Daniel protested. Standard Earth history and science. Earth history is classified as potentially seditious material on frontier worlds, the Zarathi replied. This device will be confiscated. Maria stepped forward. That's mine. I need it for school. The Zarathi turned its glowing gaze to the child. Human offspring should not speak to Zarathi officials. Kate pulled Maria back, but the girl was upset. You're breaking our things and taking my tablet. It's not fair. Maria, please, Kate whispered urgently. The lead Zarathi made a motion to its companions. This dwelling shows signs of resistance to imperial authority. All occupants will be taken for re-education. What? No! Daniel stepped between the aliens and his family. We've done nothing wrong. We followed all your rules. Move aside, human, the Zarathi ordered, raising its weapon. Daniel stood his ground. This is our home. You have no right. The Zarathi struck with blinding speed, the end of its staff hitting Daniel in the chest. He fell back, gasping for air. Daniel! Kate screamed, rushing to her husband. Maria broke free from her mother's grasp. Stop hurting my daddy. She ran toward the Zarathi, her small hands balled into fists. The alien raised its weapon, aiming it at the charging child. Maria, no! Kate screamed. A flash of blue light filled the room. Maria's small body crumpled to the floor. For a moment, everything was silent. Then Kate's agonized wail broke the stillness. She crawled to her daughter, gathering the still form in her arms. What have you done? She sobbed. She's just a child. The Zarathi stood unmoved. The offspring attempted to attack an imperial official. Response was protocol. Daniel struggled to his feet, pain forgotten in the rush of horror. She's 9 years old. The lead Zarathi made a gesture that might have been dismissive. Age is irrelevant. Compliance is mandatory. Outside, alarms began to sound. The Zarathi received some message through their helmets. Without another word, they turned and left the house, leaving the devastated family behind. Daniel fell to his knees beside Kate, who was rocking Maria's body. The child's eyes were closed, her small face peaceful, as if she were sleeping. But the burned mark on her chest told the truth. Help me, Kate pleaded. We need to get her to the medical center. Daniel knew it was too late, but he couldn't say it. Instead, he gently lifted his daughter's body and followed Kate out the door. As they stepped outside, they saw chaos. Other families were being dragged from their homes. Smoke rose from several buildings. In the distance, the sound of weapons fire echoed, and then, cutting through the noise, came the roar of engines. Looking up, Daniel saw a massive ship breaking through the clouds. On its side, the emblem of the Earth Alliance gleamed in the morning light. The Defiant had arrived, but too late for Maria Lopez. On the bridge of the Earth Alliance starship, Captain Olivia Martinez watched in horror as the scene below unfolded on her view screen. "Get me a direct line to Governor Zulthar," she ordered. "Now," Captain, Communications Officer Samantha Wright said, her voice shaking. "I'm picking up. Broadcast from the surface. The Zarathi, they've killed a child." Olivia's blood ran cold. "Show me." The screen changed to show Daniel Lopez carrying the limp body of his daughter through a street filled with panic and smoke. The image was being transmitted by someone in the colony, a desperate plea for help. "Weapon systems online, Lieutenant," Miller said without waiting for orders. For the first time in her career, Captain Martinez didn't correct her tactical officer's presumption. "Yellow alert," she said instead. "Prepare landing parties. Dr. Phillips, assemble medical teams." She paused, her eyes still on the screen. "And record everything. The galaxy needs to see this." 3 days after Maria's death, the New Horizon settlement was quiet. Not the peaceful quiet of a normal day, but the heavy silence of grief and anger. Captain Olivia Martinez sat across from Daniel and Kate Lopez in what remained of their home. The family had insisted on staying, refusing evacuation offers. "I want to thank you for agreeing to speak with me," Olivia said gently. "I know this is difficult." Kate's eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. "Will anything happen to them, to the ones who killed our daughter?" Olivia wished she could give them the answer they wanted. "I've sent all our evidence to Earth Alliance headquarters. Admiral Carter is bringing it before the Galactic Council today." "And you think that will make a difference?" Daniel asked. His face had aged years in just days. "I don't know," Olivia admitted. "But what I do know is that Maria's story is being told. Officer Wright managed to broadcast the footage throughout human space before the Zarathi could jam our signals." Kate reached for a small toy on the table, a little stuffed dog that had belonged to Maria. "She wanted to be like you someday, to explore space and see new worlds." Olivia felt her throat tighten. "I'm so sorry I couldn't get here sooner." "It's not your fault," Daniel said. "It's theirs, and they need to pay for what they did." As Olivia left the Lopez home, she found Eric Johnson waiting outside. Her first officer's face was grim. "Governor Zulthar is demanding we leave orbit," he told her. "He says our presence is inflaming tensions." "As if murdering a child didn't do that already," Olivia replied. "We're staying right here until Admiral Carter gives us new orders." They walked through the settlement toward the landing area where their shuttle waited. Everywhere, humans watched them with a mix of hope and despair. Some nodded as they passed. Others simply stared. "The colony militia has been training," Eric said quietly. "They think there will be more attacks." "Can you blame them?" Olivia asked. Back aboard the Defiant, the mood was tense. The crew had witnessed the aftermath of the Zarathi attack, and many had helped treat the wounded. Dr. Alan Phillips met Olivia in the shuttle bay, his medical coat still stained with blood. "How are the injured?" she asked. "Stable, mostly, but I've completed my analysis of the child's injuries." Alan's professional demeanor slipped for a moment. "Captain, that weapon was set to maximum power. There was no attempt to use a stun setting or minimal force. Whoever fired that shot meant to kill." Olivia's hands clenched into fists. "Document everything, Alan. I want a complete medical report to send to Earth." In her ready room, communications, Officer Samantha Wright was waiting with more news. "Admiral Carter's transmission is coming through," she said. "It's encoded for your eyes only." Alone, Olivia watched as Admiral Carter's tired face appeared on her screen. She could tell immediately that the news wasn't good. "Captain Martinez, I presented our evidence to the Galactic Council this morning. The Zarathi ambassador called the death of Maria Lopez regrettable but necessary for maintaining order. Their official position is that the child attacked an Imperial official, and the response was within protocol." "That's absurd," Olivia said. She was 9 years old. I know, Admiral Carter sighed. But the Zarathi control the council. Most of the other species are too afraid to speak against them. He paused. However, there was something interesting. The Volani ambassador approached me privately after the session. It seems they've been watching humans with great interest. The Volani were an old species that had been under Zarathi control for centuries. They were known for their patience and caution. What did they want? Olivia asked. Nothing specific yet. But I got the sense they're gauging our response to this incident. Stay alert, Captain. You're in a delicate position out there. After the transmission ended, Olivia sat in silence for a long moment. Then she called a senior staff meeting. In the conference room, her officers gathered quickly. Lieutenant Ryan Miller, the tactical officer, was already working on a data pad when she arrived. I've been analyzing Zarathi patrol patterns, he said without preamble. They've increased their presence around all human colonies, not just New Horizon. They're expecting a response, Eric said. Engineer Frank Cooper cleared his throat. Captain, I've been studying some debris we collected from previous Zarathi encounters. There's something unusual about their shield technology. What? Kind of unusual? Olivia asked. It has a fluctuation pattern. I think it might be a vulnerability, but I need more time to study it. Olivia nodded. Make it a priority, Frank. What are our orders from Earth Alliance? Dr. Phillips asked. Officially, to maintain our position and provide humanitarian aid to the colony, Olivia replied. Unofficially, to prepare. Samantha Wright looked up from her console. Captain, I'm getting reports from across human space. People are angry. There are protests outside Zarathi embassies on Earth and Mars. The footage of Maria, it's everywhere. Good, Lieutenant Miller said firmly. People need to see what we're dealing with. On the main view screen, they could see a Zarathi patrol, ship keeping a distant watch on the Defiant. None of them needed to say what they were all thinking. This was only the beginning. Thousands of light years away, on Earth, Security Council Chair Patricia Nelson faced a storm of public outrage. Her office was flooded with demands for action against the Zarathi. Protests filled the streets of major cities. Military recruitment centers reported lines around the block. We need to be careful, her advisor warned. We can't win a direct war with the Zarathi Empire. Patricia watched a news broadcast showing Daniel and Kate Lopez talking about their daughter. The entire planet was mourning with them. Maybe not today, she said quietly. But for the first time, humanity is truly united, and that changes everything. In her private quarters on the Defiant, Captain Martinez received an encrypted message from a source she didn't recognize. When she opened it, she found technical specifications for Zarathi patrol ships. At the end was a simple message. From friends who have waited long for your arrival. The Volani stand ready. Outside the observation window, the stars seemed closer somehow, as if the vast distances of space had suddenly become less important than the connections between those who lived among them. On New Horizon, in a small ceremony attended by the entire settlement, they laid Maria Lopez to rest. Her grave was marked with a simple stone, but people brought items to remember her by: toys, flowers, drawings from other children. Daniel stood beside the grave long after others had left. They thought killing a child would make us afraid, he said to Captain Martinez, who had stayed with him. Instead, it's the first time I've seen people truly unafraid of them. The first spark had been lit. The fire would soon follow. 6 months passed since Maria Lopez died. The small grave on New Horizon was never without fresh flowers. People from other colonies made the journey just to leave a toy or a note. Her name had become a whisper, a promise, a reason. In those 6 months, much had changed. The Earth Alliance had officially protested to the Galactic Council 3 more times. Each time, the Zarathi dismissed their concerns. Meanwhile, the people of New Horizon did not remain idle. Captain Olivia Martinez stood on a hill overlooking the settlement. What had once been simple homes and community buildings now had walls, barriers, and hidden defenses. Engineers from the Defiant had helped repair the colony's power grid, adding systems that weren't on any official plans. "They're coming," Eric Johnson said as he joined her on the hilltop. "Our long-range sensors picked up a Zarathi battle group. At least 5 ships." Olivia nodded. She had expected this. "How long?" 3 hours, maybe 4. Below them, the settlement continued its normal activities, but with purpose. No one ran or showed fear. Children were calmly led into underground shelters. Adults moved to their assigned positions. "Send the signal," Olivia ordered. Eric tapped his communicator. "It's done." Across the colony, hidden systems activated. Weapons that shouldn't exist on a frontier world emerged from barns and community buildings. Shields that the Zarathi didn't know about hummed to life, invisible but ready. Back on the Defiant, Lieutenant Ryan Miller was running final checks on the ship's weapons systems. The tactical officer had spent months modifying them based on Engineer Cooper's discoveries. "How's it looking, Ryan?" Olivia asked as she returned to the bridge. "Ready as we'll ever be, Captain," he replied. "The shield penetration modifications are online. If Cooper's calculations are correct, we'll cut through their defenses like they're not even there." Dr. Alan Phillips entered the bridge, looking uncomfortable in the body armor all crew were now required to wear. "Medical teams are prepared for casualties," he reported, "but I hope we don't need them." "We all do, Alan," Olivia said. She turned to her communications officer. "Samantha, open a channel to all colony defense positions." The young officer worked her console. "Channel open, Captain." Olivia took a deep breath. "This is Captain Martinez. The Zarathi battle group. Approaching is coming to punish New Horizon for daring to stand up after what happened to Maria Lopez. They expect to find a frightened colony that will surrender. Let's show them how wrong they are." All across the settlement, people gripped their weapons tighter. Many had never fought before 6 months ago. Now they were ready. The Defiant moved into position above the colony, its weapons powered but not yet active. They needed the Zarathi to make the first move. "Incoming transmission from the lead Zarathi vessel," Samantha announced. "On screen," Olivia ordered. Governor Zulthar's face appeared on the view screen. The Zarathi's glowing eyes seemed brighter with anger. "Captain Martinez, your presence is a violation of Imperial decree. New Horizon has been declared in rebellion against the Zarathi Empire. Stand down your vessel and prepare to be boarded." Olivia met his gaze steadily. "Governor, we are here at the request of Earth Alliance citizens who need protection. We will not abandon them." "Then you will share their fate," Zulthar replied. "The punishment for rebellion is well known across the galaxy. This settlement will serve as an example to other human colonies." The screen went dark. Moments later, the Zarathi ships began their approach. "They're launching landing craft," Ryan reported. "And their main vessels are charging weapons." "Target their lead ship," Olivia ordered. "Aim for the shield generators." The battle for New Horizon began with a flash of light. The Defiant's modified weapons struck the Zarathi ship, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a section of the alien vessel's shields flickered and died. "It worked," Frank Cooper shouted from the engineering station. "The frequency modulation worked." Olivia allowed herself a small smile. "Fire again, same target." On the surface, the colony's defenses activated as Zarathi landing craft approached. Hidden turrets emerged from what looked like water towers and storage sheds. The first wave of Zarathi soldiers found themselves under heavy fire before they even touched the ground. Daniel Lopez manned one of those turrets. In the months since his daughter's death, he had transformed from a soil scientist into a resistance leader. The weapon in his hands felt like justice. "Sector 3 needs support," came a voice over his communicator. "On it," Daniel replied, redirecting his fire to help the eastern perimeter. Kate Lopez was in the underground command center, coordinating the colony's defense. Screens showed the battle unfolding above and around them. "The Defiant has damaged 2 of their ships," she reported to the defense teams. "Hold your positions." In orbit, the space battle intensified. The Zarathi, shocked by the effectiveness of human weapons, began to adapt their tactics. They spread out, making it harder for the Defiant to target them all. "Captain, we can't keep..." this up against all 5 ships, Eric warned. We need help. As if in answer to his words, new contacts appeared on their sensors. Unknown vessels approaching at high speed, Ryan announced. Then his eyes widened. They're Volani ships. 3 heavy cruisers. The sleek silver vessels of the Volani dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately opened fire on the Zarathi ships. Their weapons were different from human technology, but equally effective against the surprised Zarathi. We're receiving a transmission from the lead Volani ship, Samantha said. A tall, willowy alien with pale skin and 4 arms appeared on the screen. Captain Martinez, I am Commander Tiernall of the Volani Free Forces. We received your signal and came as quickly as we could. The time for hiding is over. Thank you, Commander, Olivia replied. Your timing is perfect. On the surface, the battle was turning. The Zarathi soldiers, expecting an easy victory against simple colonists, found themselves facing determined fighters with surprisingly advanced weapons. The colonists knew every hill, every building, every approach. They used this knowledge to deadly effect. Up in orbit, the combined forces of the Defiant and the Volani ships pressed their advantage. 2 Zarathi vessels were already crippled and drifting. Governor Zulthar's ship turned to flee. They're running, Ryan announced with satisfaction. Let them go, Olivia ordered. Let them tell others what happened here. As the Zarathi ships retreated, a cheer went up from the colony below. For the first time in known history, the Zarathi Empire had been defeated in battle. In the aftermath, Commander Tiernall met with Captain Martinez and the colony leaders in the newly secured settlement. The tall Volani had to duck to enter human buildings. This is just the beginning, Tiernall warned. The Zarathi will return with a larger force. They cannot allow this victory to stand. Then we'll be ready for them, Daniel said firmly. Not just here, Tiernall continued. Many species have waited centuries for this moment. The Volani, the Krell, the Jaxari, all have suffered under Zarathi rule. Your resistance here, your victory, it gives them hope. Olivia looked at the faces. Around her, humans and Volani together. Then perhaps it's time for a formal alliance. That night, as New Horizons celebrated their victory and mourned their losses, a message was sent from the Defiant to Earth Alliance headquarters. It contained battle reports, technical data, and a simple request. Prepare for war. The Zarathi Empire had ruled through fear for thousands of years, but they had never faced humans before, and they had never made the mistake of killing a human child in front of her people. The spark had become a flame, and now that flame was spreading across the stars. 3 months after the Battle of New Horizon, the war had spread across the galaxy. What began as a single colony's resistance had grown into the largest uprising the Zarathi Empire had ever faced. Species that had been conquered for centuries found courage in humanity's stand. The Earth Alliance fleet gathered near Saturn. It was the largest collection of human warships ever assembled. Among them, the Defiant held a position of honor. Captain Olivia Martinez stood on her bridge, watching, as more ships arrived through faster-than-light jumps. The Volani battle group has joined the fleet, Eric Johnson reported, and the Jaxari have sent word they'll arrive within the hour. Olivia nodded. The alliance had grown stronger each day. Species that humans had barely known existed now fought alongside them against their common oppressor. Captain, Samantha. Wright called from her communications station. Admiral Carter is requesting your presence on the flagship. The Earth Alliance flagship Determination was 3 times the size of the Defiant. Its massive hull bore the scars of recent battles. Olivia made her way to the command deck, where Admiral Carter waited with leaders from other species. Captain Martinez. The Admiral greeted her. Our intelligence reports the Zarathi are sending their main battle fleet to crush us. They've decided Earth itself must be destroyed to end the rebellion. Commander Tiernall of the Volani stepped forward. Their high command believes that by striking at humanity's homeworld, they will break the spirit of resistance throughout the galaxy. They're wrong, Olivia said firmly. Even if Earth fell, we would fight on. Indeed, rumbled a deep voice. A massive, stone-skinned Krell shifted his weight, the deck plates groaning beneath him. But we do not intend to let Earth fall. Admiral Carter gestured to a holographic display showing the approaching Zarathi fleet. They outnumber us 2-1, but thanks to Engineer Cooper's shield frequency discoveries and the combined technologies of our allies, we have a fighting chance. The plan is simple, the Admiral continued. We meet them at Saturn's rings. The ice and dust will interfere with their sensors, giving us a slight advantage. Our joint fleet will engage their main force while a smaller strike team targets their command ship. Olivia felt a chill. And who will lead this strike team? Admiral Carter met her gaze. You will, Captain. The Defiant is our fastest ship and your crew has more experience fighting Zarathi than anyone else. Back on the Defiant, Olivia briefed her senior officers. Lieutenant Ryan Miller studied the tactical plans with fierce concentration. Dr. Alan Phillips looked concerned but determined. Engineer Frank Cooper was already making modifications to their engines for the dangerous mission. The strike team will consist of the Defiant and 2 Volani stealth ships, Olivia explained, while the main battle rages will slip behind enemy lines and target the Zarathi flagship. What about their defenses? Ryan asked. That's where my shield modifications come in, Frank said, pointing to a diagram. We can create a temporary gap in their shields, but only for about 30 seconds. That's not much time, Eric observed. It's all we'll have, Olivia replied. We get one shot at this. As the officers left to prepare, Samantha approached Olivia. Captain, there's a transmission for you from New Horizon. It's Daniel and Kate Lopez. On the screen, the parents of Maria Lopez appeared. They looked different now, harder, but also somehow stronger. Captain Martinez, Daniel greeted her. We heard about the coming battle. We wanted to wish you luck, Kate added, and to give you something. She held up a small, worn stuffed animal, the toy dog that had belonged to Maria. We want you to take this with you, Daniel said, to remind you what we're fighting for. Olivia felt her throat tighten. I would be honored. The Battle of Saturn began at dawn, Earth time. The rings of the great gas giant glowed with reflected sunlight as the human-led alliance took their positions. When the Zarathi fleet arrived, the darkness of space lit up with weapon fire. The Defiant and its small strike team waited in the shadow of one of Saturn's moons. As the main battle raged, they slipped away, engines running silent. The Zarathi flagship has been identified, Ryan reported. It's the largest vessel in their fleet. Set course, Olivia ordered. Maximum stealth. The 3 ships moved through the chaos of battle like ghosts. Larger explosions and the distraction of the main conflict helped mask their approach. We're entering weapons range, Eric announced. Still undetected. Olivia gripped the armrests of her command chair. Maria's stuffed dog sat on the console beside her. Prepare shield disruptors, she ordered. All weapons ready. The massive Zarathi flagship loomed ahead of them. It was a city in space, bristling with weapons and surrounded by escort ships. Now, Olivia commanded. The Defiant and the Volani ships fired their special disruptors simultaneously. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then, a flickering gap appeared in the Zarathi shields. 30 seconds, Frank counted down. 29. Fire everything we have, Olivia ordered. The 3 ships poured their firepower into the gap. The Zarathi flagship's hull buckled under the assault. Secondary explosions rippled along its length. They're returning fire, Ryan shouted. The Defiant shuddered as Zarathi weapons struck them. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shields at 40%, Eric reported. We can't take much more of this. 10 seconds left, Frank continued counting. On the view screen, they could see the Zarathi flagship burning from within. Its weapons faltered as power systems failed. 5 seconds. 4, 3. A final volley from the Defiant struck the flagship's command center. The explosion ripped through the massive vessel, tearing it apart from the inside. Direct hit, Ryan called out. Across the battlefield, the destruction of their flagship sent shockwaves through the Zarathi fleet. Their coordinated attack faltered as confusion spread. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system. All ships, press the advantage. The Zarathi command structure is compromised. The Allied fleet surged forward. Ships from a dozen different species fighting together overwhelmed the disorganized Zarathi forces. Hours later, it was over. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zarathi Empire had been defeated in a major battle. Their remaining ships fled, jumping to faster-than-light speed to escape. 1 year later, Captain Olivia Martinez stood on New Horizon again. But this time, she was there for a celebration. A monument was being unveiled, a simple statue of a small girl reaching for the stars. Daniel and Kate Lopez stood beside her as the colony's children pulled away the covering cloth. The statue of Maria gleamed in the sunlight. "She would have been 11 today," Kate said softly. "She changed the galaxy," Olivia replied. "More than anyone could have imagined." Around them, humans mingled with Villani, Krell, Jaxari, and even a few Zarathi who had rejected their empire's ways. The new Galactic Council had replaced the old one, with all species having equal representation. As the ceremony ended, Olivia noticed a small Zarathi child playing with a human boy near the monument. They were sharing toys, laughing together. "That's what we really fought for," Daniel said, following her gaze. "Not just to defeat them, but to build something better." Above them, the stars were no longer distant and unreachable. They were highways now, connecting worlds and peoples who had found something stronger than fear: hope. And it had all begun because a little girl named Maria Lopez had stood up to a tyrant, showing a courage that would inspire an entire galaxy.